Welcome back, everyone, to MSI in Reykjavik, Iceland. After 4 days of competition, it is now or never for the teams in Group B, as only 2 of them will move on to the Rumble stage and stay alive at MSI. The Mad Lions, they are so far undefeated after 3 games, and we'll see if they give us another nail-biter in Game 1 as they take on the fast-paced Wildcats. There they are, the Wildcats, looking excited. Oh, and we're getting a little message.
Oh, smooth transition.
Oh, well done. I'm sjokz, joined by Ender and by Bwipo. Hi, Bwipo. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, it's nice to be back.
It's great to be back, but I can't start the show with you as a guest without just asking if you have anything to say about anything in particular.
And your role swapped to the analyst desk.
And your role swapped to the analyst desk.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Right. Well, we have a full day to get it out of him. Now, looking at our standings, Group B and C are still subject to change as they wrap up over the next 2 days. But we have locked in.
Because Chaz has been playing a lot of these AD mid laners. Now, I didn't quite see him use the TP like I like to, but you know, maybe I'll have to try the exhaust myself sometime.
I mean, it worked out. It was situationally very, very good. And this was just one of my favorite moments of MSI so far. And exactly what MSI and what these tournaments are all about, just racing. Oh
I think the staff is more excited than the players. I love it.
Yeah, I guess the players were like, well, this game was very convincing for us. But yeah, it's super. And again, just to reiterate it, I'm sure you've heard it before. First time for OS that they make it to the next stage of an international tournament. And that is just so important because they didn't have a region at the beginning of this year, and the LCO took over the torch. The broadcast was amazing, and the players made it to the next stage. So, great stuff. And to take a deeper look, rather, at the team from Down Under, Dash was able to catch up with Pentanet's Pabu and get his thoughts on their historic win.
I want to congratulate you again on an absolutely historic victory.
Thank you.
Keep it up, man. Go celebrate, not too hard, maybe only one shoey for this victory, and then we'll see you in the Rumble stage. Thank you again.
Thank you.
What a fun interview, and of course super happy that finally the credit is given that is deserved. I of course mean to 420 Weepy Slayer. So the other team that got out of that group, and I know that we love talking about Pentanet. I think they really deserve to be talked about. RNG also got out of that group. Now I guess the reason we're not talking about it that much is because Bwipo, you expect the first seed from the LPL to get out of this group specifically. So what are our expectations now that they move on to the Rumble stage?
You mentioned this group specifically.
That it is. I'm super excited to see these teams face off, as you say, in the next Rumble stage, and then to be expected also in the knockouts. 8 wins. Yeah, they beat everyone. 3 times. No, 4 times.
Well, they beat everyone, but they only played 2 teams. So
that's true, but they beat them 4 times.
That's true.
It's very impressive. So we'll see how that evolves for RNG as they move on to the next stage. But as for us, we will be looking at Group B today specifically, and there's a lot more up in the air. And we're going to talk a little bit about the meta coming into this day, because with 25 matches now under our belts, we've seen a variety of picks and bans, including a rather surprising ban thrown at Amumu. Still don't know what that's about. Ender, let's take a look specifically at the mid lane picks and what we've seen being prevalent so far.
Yeah, because yesterday we talked a lot about the jungle.
Some solo kills. However, once he gets to the river, gets his mid priority and starts ganking people, that's when he's really, really powerful.
So do you think he has to be kind of a hybrid of the mid player that looks for the roams and kind of in a jungle role, as in also providing his lanes with the ganks? Is that the key? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's really a sit mid and farm type of mid laner. He doesn't bring any type of scaling, though you could argue he's like a bit of a bruiser that can scale. You know, he can grab the Gore Drinker, his Tarax, and be...
Yeah, but it does seem to me, which is really cool, that you can go for different styles. You can go for a kind of a myriad of champions for now. And just out of curiosity, Bwipo, what do you think about the jungle meta right now?
It looks pretty interesting. You're full clearing, as usual.
Okay, very interesting. So while the meta shapes up on the Rift, there's plenty of activity elsewhere in Iceland. Lore is bringing us a stampeding Icelandic fun fact of the day. Thank you so much, Lore. You know what? I think they're onto something. So the exported horses are not allowed to return because of law. If there was somewhere that if the EU players went to NA, but then they had to stay there forever because if you make that choice, you're not allowed to
Wait,
come.
no, but we
Or
don't want
something.
that to be, that's not what you want to do.
Really?
Yeah, because then I'd never be allowed back.
Oh, that's true. We want you to come back. But thank you so much, Laura, and I hope you stay safe out there in Iceland. I hear it can be really, really windy. Here, though, we're ready to take a look at the games ahead of us with the Mad Lions, PSG Talon, Pain Gaming, and the Fast Pay Wildcats, each vying for a spot in the Rumble stage. So the scoreline looks very convincing for Mad Lions, but I think that's not really the reality of the games we've seen them
For
play.
sure, the games have been
3 clean games.
I think that's super fair when it comes to the stakes. Mad would lock the next stage with 2 wins. And if they were to win against the Wildcats, it means that there's only one case in which they end up playing tiebreakers. So that's looking good, but we want them to get there convincingly. Moving on to the middle of the pack, the TCL and the CB LOL, they have been waiting for their shot to make it to the next stage. There's been sporadic success. There's been good times for the CB LOL a couple of years ago. The TCL has been on top also as recently of Worlds last year. But yeah, it's going to be difficult for those 2 teams.
I mean, right now it's looking dire for the Wildcats sitting at 0-3, so obviously they need all the wins they can get today. Mad Lions, and they cannot make those same mistakes today.
Great point. If anything, the fans are behind them. Twitter is absolutely lit up with pictures of Robo
What day
right
is it?
now. I don't know which day it is. So finally in this group, we also have PSG Talon, PCS, the spiritual successor to the LMS Whippo, and then you would expect them to get very far. And honestly, this roster has been promising both domestically and now also so far at MSI.
The most interesting part for me about this lineup is Maple and Hanabi. Last time they played,
Yes, we'll see indeed. And another important section of the Group B story is the bot laners. All 4 teams have distinctive bot lanes and distinctive AD carries. So I'd like to take a look at them, starting with Holy Phoenix from the Wildcats. This man is an absolute legend in the region, and he is very important to his team. And a little birdie told me that you played with him on a team, actually. So
I
what
did.
can you say about him?
It's actually my first official match I ever played for League of Legends was with Holy Phoenix on my team. So I was very, very much a rookie back then. I didn't last too long on Dark Passage. I was a little bit untempered, perhaps. But my experience with him is there's always been a super strong AD.
Very important. Secondly, I'd like to talk about Doggo, of course, the story of Unified not being able to make it to MSI due to health reasons. And Doggo is, of course, part of Beyond Gaming, the team that PSG Talon beat in the finals. But where do we land on him after the first round robin?
Well,
Yeah, me too. And it's going to be important for PSG Talon as well. Next up, we talked about Pain before, and you can't talk about Pain Gaming without talking about BRTT. Now, high hopes for BRTT, again, domestically, absolutely crushing it. But honestly, at MSI, the numbers have not looked so good so far.
Honestly, like the biggest issue I have with Pain Gaming is their early game. They're not looking too hot. They're coming into mid games with several thousands of gold leads of deficit. Their champion drafts, like they rely in some of their drafts, they rely on getting a little bit further ahead, and they're not managing to get anything going. That said, like I mentioned earlier, once the game starts being played, the creativity does come in, and honestly, some of the experience from probably BRTT is coming to show. And well, at the end of the game, we sometimes see the Nexus exploding on the other side. We had the first game they won against Wildcats, even though they were very far behind.
But they make it. Yeah, they are creative in the later game. If they can just shore up that early game, not just obviously BRTT, but everyone, then they are in a better position.
yeah, and it's a little shocking too, because I feel like for BRTT, you know, the BRTT can shine, but it hasn't been that way so far.
No, we'll hope it comes out today. And speaking of Carzzy, he's gone crazy at MSI so far. No, we talked about this in rehearsal. Bwippo said, well, yes, but actually that is to be expected.
It is.
Good luck on the games today.
Thank you.
And Sjokz, back to you.
Thank you very much, Laura. Always a pleasure to hear from Mac. And he says, yeah, our mid-game hasn't been that well. Bwippo, can you identify with what he said there about, well, in scrims we were focusing specifically on the early game, so the other things were not as close in our mind, and that may be a reason why it's not going so swimmingly.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense.
Makes sense. They're up against the Wildcats. Important match now. This was a very close game, I would say, too close for comfort for the Mad Lions. And then you have to give credit to the Istanbul Wildcats. And I think Max said it there already. The top lane matchup is going to be really important as well. Armut has been someone that I was looking out for specifically because I was not too sure. I mean, he came from the TCL. He did really well in the LEC, but then coming to an international tournament is something completely different.
I think Armut has been so interesting to watch because I think he's actually only gotten better.
Good to see more of.
Definitely, and he's up versus Starscreen, and I think that's a good shout by Max. Starscreen has had fantastic games so far, and he has been the surprise to me. I think we focus very much on Holy Phoenix, but he has really been holding his own and more and could be a difference maker.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those hard ones for me because I think that Armut has been such a rock for the team that I'm curious to see if the Wildcats can get...
Yes, exactly. Now the Wildcats, the Istanbul Wildcats, are a new champion in the TCL, signaling a bit of a new era, so the hopes are always incredibly high. I think if we look at it, and correct me if I'm wrong, I've always considered the TCL in most recent years of kind of one of the strongest of the non-major regions. On top of that, we see a lot of talent, you for instance, and I think Caps as well, for instance, Humanoid, a lot of players that play in the TCL that then end up in the LEC specifically. So we know there's enormous quality there. But specifically, the game plan here. We've said already, lane is going well for Mad Lions. Early game is going great for Mad Lions. The Wildcats are a team also domestically that after the laning phase and when they get to group is where they find their stride. So Bippo, should the Wildcats now cater their game plan against the Mad Lions to this, being more late game, more team fight focused, or what do you think?
I think it's important to pick a couple of...
I don't think it's going to be through just individual laning. It's going to be more of a team effort.
It's a bit of a catch-22, right? Because if you give up the lane prowess, then you run the risk of falling behind too far that you have no way to come back in the game at all. What are some picks that we think would work? We've talked about the mid lane champion diversity. What would be a good pick here, knowing what Humanoid has played so far, which he loves to go for the control mages, but he also pulled out the Kog'Maw, for instance.
Well, I think that, like we were mentioning before, like, sure, I love you set up the top lane too. It's a new era for the TCL. It's a new era for the LEC as well. But there's only one of these teams with the two-time TCL champion in the top lane, Armut. That's the difference today. That's why Mad Lions are going to win.
You wanted to give everyone who watched the playoffs PTSD for like saying new era and two-time TCL champion. I respect it. It's time for round 2 of the cat fight between the Mad Lions and the Wildcats as Group B fight for a spot in the Rumble stage.
This group is a tough one to know the expectations because I think on paper a lot of people had said, hey, this looks like the most evenly spread out group.
I think we have kind of disrespected the other teams, which we shouldn't have done.
BRTT and T9 putting some work onto the Nexus turret. They've got the first one. They turn their attention to the second. It starts to get chunked down. Pain Gaming have lost 2. They don't have the damage just yet. Mad Lions live to fight another day. The willingness to go for that play. It does show their desire and their drive, and it was so close.
Claramente a gente ficou abalado com essa partida. Acho que mais que a de ontem a gente tomou stomp.
Pain Gaming threw everything at the wall and came tantalizingly close to taking down the Mad Lions.
And we were expecting that we would go undefeated because we think that the only decent team that has like a good chances of defeating us is PSG.
What an incredible showing here from the European team, absolutely dismantling PSG talent.
我觉得我们现在很有信心，再跟 Mad Lions 打一次的话，我们会赢下他们。就这次 MSI 的话，其实我们蛮有信心的。
The Wildcats, they're the first team on the verge of being eliminated.
Maçlar yakındı fakat kazanamayınca bir önemi kalmıyor. Sonraki maçları kazanmak için elimizden geleni yapacağız ve Rumble Stage'i kalacağımızı düşünüyorum.
For all the teams in this group, it is showing that the games are still very close. These teams very closely matched.
Grubumuzdaki en büyük tehdit kim? Büyük ihtimal kendimiziz ya.
What we wanna do is make Europe proud.
我们已经等很久了，这次 PSG 即将拿到前所未有的成绩。
I play for this moment, you know, I practice for this moment, I live for this moment. To compete against the best and to show the world that Brazil can do it.
Hello and welcome everyone. It is almost at the end of the group stage here for MSI, but we're not done just yet. Still some more groups to finish here.
Welcome back everyone to the State Farm Analyst Desk where the Istanbul Wildcats pull off the win over the first seed out of the LEC, the Mad Lions. There is a lot to talk about and I think we should start by the early game as is proper. You talked a lot about a pick that would be good in the top lane. You alluded to a set maybe, but Urgot was kind of doing the job that you wanted him to do as well.
He was the bigger bruiser.
Yeah.
He managed to get the best of Armut in a level 1.
There was a bit of a mix-up. I do think we're getting the replays as well of Starscreen. And what was particularly interesting as well was the control that Saren was able to get. Not something you necessarily expect from a Zoe versus Orianna matchup, but Orianna could do whatever she wanted in roaming.
So what's most interesting about this?
Swing the side lanes in the Wildcats' favor.
Absolutely. And then we get to that dreaded mid-game, and I think we saw the Herald there. That was a good move from the Mad Lions. But again, we are left wondering what exactly is going on. Now, how much of that do you think was a side effect of the composition and the fact that it's pretty difficult to team fight with? And how much was it just the TCL, both macro and in the team fights, outplaying the Mad Lions.
Well, I mean, ultimately, it came down to
if we were starting to win a fight.
Yeah, if I was Armwoods, I'd be crazy. I'd be crazy, yes, in that matchup, but also a bit scared because last time at Worlds, you know, they lost to the TCL and then the Mad Lions imported their top
but
players.
Armo was the guy that beat them, so it's a little confusing.
It's a little confusing. The Oppo player of the game was Saren. It was a team effort, but I do think the fact that he was able to get out of the lane and get the advantages for the Wildcats is what was a big part of their victory. Yes, wonderful. And now this group becomes so incredibly interesting once again because now the Wildcats have their win. Now they are set up to take a win. They already took one off Mad Lions, but if they beat Pain Gaming and if they're able to keep that up, all kinds of things are possible. And for the Mad Lions, back to the drawing board again, a lot of question marks around their performance.
Mad Lions mid-games.
But we're going to check in with Farfetch, who's standing by with Laura.
Farfetch, thank you.
Welcome back, everyone, to the State Farm Analyst Desk. The fast-paced Wildcats got their first win of MSI earlier today, ending Mad Lions' winning streak and keeping themselves in the game. And their eyes are now set on a miracle run, but every game is, of course, a must-win. That is the nature of a miracle run, and they are up versus PSG Talon, who can secure a spot in the Rumble stage by winning versus the Wildcats. So let's set the stage, starting with rehashing Whippo, the win of the Wildcats versus the Mad Lions, which was, all things considered, quite comfortable.
Honestly, after the action in the bottom lane where Humanoid teleported down, lost his flash, from that point, I think a little bit more consistent.
Yes, possibly. When we look at the Wildcats domestically, they actually are monsters in the early game, but it's not because of CS leads, it's because they choose to fight everyone they see. And the issue with that, of course, is if you go up versus a team that is able to match you, which possibly PSG Talon can, that could be dangerous. But on the other hand, we also want to see them be proactive if that is what was working for them domestically.
Right, we want to see the...
Yes, I was also really enamored with Farfetch and the interview that he gave to Laura, and he reminded us of something that is, in fact, very, very important. None of these players, except for Holy Phoenix, who had a Worlds appearance, have been to the international stage. Farfetch won with Fenerbahce in summer of 2020, the winter split, rather, which is their spring split, but couldn't go to MSI because MSI did not happen. So the fact that they needed a bit more time to come online is completely acceptable in my book. But now you're up against it. You start 0-3, you now have that win, and now you need to beat PSG Talon Whippo, a pivotal matchup in the mid lane. Maple up versus Saren. Saren, who almost single-handedly brought them into that game versus Mad Lions.
I think honestly...
Welcome back, everyone, to the State Farm Analyst Desk. Pain Gaming and Mad Lions faced off in one of the most dramatic games, rather, at MSI. So far, it came down to a damn base race, and now it is so important for either of these teams to win. The Mad Lions, they will advance to the Rumble stage with a win here. For the CBLOL champions, every game is do or die as they fight to catch up with PSG and the Mad Lions. The scenario here is Pain beat Mad Lions go 0-3, and they're up versus PSG in their last game, possible. And Pain also beat Turkey. Then we get a tiebreaker between the Mad Lions and Pain. So Pain need to win every single game, and they need to start here. But I do want to start by talking a bit about those Mad Lions. We came into the day wanting to see strong mid-game performances from them. Versus the Wildcats, that was not the case.
I think the biggest issue with their performance in general in the game is they picked such a aggressive
at times, and that can bite them in the back.
I do have a follow-up question that into the Lee Sin that we've seen Armid prefer, in which he's actually had great performances on, barring that performance versus Starscreen. But is it not kind of an issue if you know that you're fumbling a bit in the mid-game and it comes down to these important team fights? To me, it's very hard to be the most useful champion you can be as a Lee Sin in those team fights necessarily, if you're not super fed or whatnot. Am I seeing that incorrectly, or would another pick maybe be better?
I mean, I think on these scaling picks, whereas right there in that game, he was on a Zoe, and
it
was not what it needed to be.
And I just want to echo what you said at the top of the day. It was about the bot lane specifically for Mad, but it should go for everything. This is not a group you should have problems in necessarily. So dropping a game, having these problematic mid-games, if you think about Mad Lions making it to the Rumble stage, that's something to very much worry about. So you need strong performances. Let's look at the bot lane specifically in this one, because I find these pivotal storylines for both teams. We said it at the beginning of the day. The bot lane of Pain Gaming is not having the best tournament so far. And the only thing, not the only thing, that was too harsh. Sorry, people at home. The thing that has been working very well is the laning phases out of Kaiser and out of Carzzy.
Yeah, I think they've definitely had a great start already to this.
Let's see what happens at Loss here with the end of Pain's run at MSI and send Mad Lions to the Rumble stage along with PSG. Dracos, Caterol, yay! Take it away.
Yay.
Thank you very much, sjokz, and to a much, much lesser degree, Ender. But also thank you to Bwipo. Upper draw.
Thank you very much, Laura. Welcome back to the State Farm Analyst Desk. I like it. Him saying, oh, losing to Turkey, we thought it was a bad omen because of what happened at Worlds. I got to think about it. But the Mad Lions made it, and there is a lot to talk about because it wasn't all swimmingly in the early game. Let's start with the jungle matchup. Morgana versus Rumble, arguably the two strongest junglers on this patch. I'd love to dive a little bit deeper, Bwipo, into what these champions bring. First off, who's better in the early game, in the early invades, before we see the early invade. Who is actually better if it's... a normal game.
I mean, honestly, I think both these champions don't really do anything level 1. Obviously,
it's not on screen yet. This is preview over there. Just ignore that.
All right.
TV magic.
Well, in the level 1 invade, Carriok managed to hit level 2, which means obviously having one extra spell is going to make the difference in almost any level 1 skirmish. So, had that been Rumble getting 2 spells, that also would have made a difference. But again,
before we look at it, something very interesting with not everybody may know, the ability haste situation, and then the fact that he had his Q actually leveled first.
So
explain.
A neat little trick about Rumble jungle that people figured out when playing him is overheat is obviously his...
Indeed. And there Armut is still smiling about it, and Carzzy are also still smiling about it. But Armut wouldn't be smiling just a little later. Bwipo, as a top lane player, talk to us about this matchup specifically and what happens to Gnar at the hands of Robo and how it influences the rest of that early game.
Well, honestly, in this type of matchup, when we're next to that, it never really, the snowball didn't keep going.
No, Ender, what's your read on that? Because that was a humongous lead in the top lane, as well as relative control on the rest of the map. So what happened?
I mean, ultimately, Humanoid kills.
A heartbreaker for Brazil, not able to make it to the next stage. And with that, also, Turkey was knocked out earlier today, but it is the Mad Lions and PSG Talon who go through. And in a few minutes, Pain and FastPay Wildcats return to the stage for their last game at MSI 2021. Let's see who ends as the winner. Hey you, welcome back to the State Farm Analyst Desk. Mad Lions and PSG Talon have already secured their spot in the Rumble stage, and they are looking to make a statement to the opposition awaiting them there. And I think that's fair. This game is technically for nothing, but I think if you're the Mad Lions, you want to go out.
It's for glory, for pride, for honor.
It's for glory. The Mad Lions or PSG, you do want to go out with a win respectively versus the champion of the PCS or the champion of the LEC. So let's start with the Paris Saint-Germain Talon. They made the stage, rather the group stage at Worlds last time around when they had the 2-sub situation. This time around, I feel like they've gone from strength to strength with kind of a false start versus the Mad Lions in their first game, but then becoming stronger and stronger.
And I feel like today I finally got to see Doggo unleash. I've been waiting for it for the whole week pretty much, and he's popping off on the Tristana, always going forward. It's something that you'll love to see from him when he goes in with that W and picked up some pretty sweet kills in this game.
Yes, he did. Exactly. They needed some time to incorporate him into the team, which I think is completely normal. And there we have Maple, who just goes from international success to international success after 2 quiet years in the LPL. He finds himself again on the international stage. They're up versus the Mad Lions in this one. At the beginning of the day, we said we want convincing performances. So let's talk about a couple of those. Maybe specifically Armut. I know that you guys wanted to talk about his performance specifically because after I think out playing a lot in the first round robin, it was a different story today, Bwipo.
Even the Rumble stage and into best of 5s, and you can't have bad days.
I think that's a great point, and also this is a matchup we're going to see in the Rumble stage because they're both qualified, so that gives us a cool little preview. And let's also preview the mid lane in that regard. We have Maple, as we already talked about, who is really a mainstay both in his region as internationally, going up against a Humanoid, and whose arc to me has been very, very interesting, Bwipo. This is a guy that started out on Splice. He was always rated, but never really at the super top, but I think has been instrumental in Mad Lions' growth over the last 2 years. years.
100%, even though
it's later on, huge impact.
Definitely. So last note before we get into the game, something we will probably be talking about a lot in the Rumble stage, the junglers. I think they are both so incredibly important, of course, as junglers always are, especially in this meta. But River is really the guy that sets up everything for PSG Talon when it came to the domestic league. And I'm really excited to see these two junglers go up against the best in the world.
Well, yeah, because I mean, I think like
next game
that we will champ select is right around the corner, and this is a fight between the two top teams in Group B as the Mad Lions and PSG close out the day in a much anticipated matchup.
I'm gonna be honest, I had a yoga joke, but I'm legitimately stuck because I'm not a flexible man. So welcome to Champ Select.
What is going on?
Welcome to Champ Select for the final game of the day.
Merci beaucoup, Laure. Welcome everyone to MSI Cooldown. I'm sjokz, joined by Ender and by Bwipo. Karzi, in good spirits. I mean, he's almost always in good spirits in interviews. He expected to go 6-0. Ender was 5-1, and we won't talk about how close some of the games were, I guess.
Yeah, you know, at the end of the day, a win's a win, and we take those. We take those.
I do think it was important that we saw this last game, which, you know, PSG was the other team that already qualified, and that looked the best in this group, Bwipo. So what did you think of Matt's performance overall in this one?
I feel like they limped out of group stage. They made it out, but
they
definitely with a little bit of a limp, they limped out.
Oh, they limped out.
It was really, it wasn't clean by any means.
Even out of the Rumbles.
Yeah, I was thinking about the context of like, you know, last year kind of disaster at Worlds, then the roster changes who really were only made at the beginning of this year, right? And then to win the championship. And now in the Rumble stage, I think is where we're really going to see them get extensively tested. And where we are hoping, as you say, that some of those issues we've seen in this stage won't come out to play once again, because that's going to be a lot harder. So let's take a look at the final standings in this group with PSG and Mad advancing, Wildcats and Pain Gaming eliminated from MSI 2021. Oof, I feel like Pain had a lot of games where they were actually contesting, then Mad Lions, of course, got beaten by the Wildcats in the first game of the day, but yeah.
Look, both of these...
It was Rumble Day today, for sure.
It was Rumble Day. They lived up to that expectation. And now it's time for our MasterCard question of the day. Rico Suave asks, ooh, I love that name. Which player do you think will shine and catch the eyes of top region teams? So I think we can go off the teams that have already qualified through, right? But then do you have to take the teams that are unexpected to go through, like a Pentanet, and is Pavu going to catch the eye of major regions? How do we interpret this one?
Oh, I mean, this one you leave major region teams.
Outside of the major region teams? Okay. I messed up the answer there.
Bwipo's over here like, this idiot, what is he saying?
It was insinuated, but maybe Canyon doesn't like smurf on them so hard that even all the other major regions are like, what the hell?
I mean, again, like looking at Pentanet and PSG in that case, I think the most in the game before that.
And it's a great story, obviously, Maple as well. No, I maybe think, like, you know, if you're Dom1 and you go up against those absolute crazy lads from
well, I mean, they're still shell-shocked
under.
from playing Detonation Focus Me, so we'll see.
They'll just go against best of one against Pentanet, and they get like a Fiddlesticks and a Zed, and they'll be like, whoa, okay, I guess we're playing ball. Going to be very exciting. So let's take some time now to preview tomorrow's action as the teams in Group C fight for the last 2 spots in the Rumble stage. Ooh, I want to say the best was kept for last because it's tomorrow, a whole day of this absolutely bonkers group. Damwon Kia is 3-0 despite almost losing out in that game versus DFM. And of course, Gillette Infinity, Detonation Focus Me, Cloud9 are all at 1 and 2. Bwipo, you must be excited to watch this group tomorrow, and what do you think is going to happen?
I mean, honestly, it's going to be 3, for example.
As a pro player, when you look at the schedule, what does this actually mean? Because we often say, oh, you know, it's a hard one to start off with, but you might just as well say, well, you can only do your best, and then, you know, it gets easier from there. Or how do you do that on days like this, which you've played before?
I mean, ultimately, like, week 2 of 1 to go out.
Yeah, I think I completely agree. I actually have them going really, really far in the tournament overall. I think Cloud9 is the kind of team, because of the nature of the new players they have attracted in Perks, but also the resiliency of Blabber and Fudge, for instance. I actually think that they're going to grow and go from strength to strength throughout this MSI. But as you say, if DFM plays like they did versus Dom1 and like they did versus C9, then we've got a whole different story.
I mean, ultimately, that's the scary thing, because you're packing in all these games on.
Oh, it's so interesting. It's like, I don't want to be like, oh, you hate LCS or whatever. No, I would love for Cloud9 to advance as well as anyone in this group.
And you just said you'll think they will. So.
And the Detonation Focus Me story is just. They are winning our hearts, Bwipo, and we love to see that. That's what can happen at MSI. Any final words from your day here at MSI?
I mean, today I think was a really interesting day. I think all the games were relatively close. both.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see what happens in that regard. That was all from us here in Berlin. We will be back tomorrow for the final day of the group stage, where the last 2 teams in the Rumble stage will be decided. See you then.
When the West rose up! SK Telecom continue to rule the world!